Well, we're now joined by exonerated death row inmate and author of Infinite Hope, How Wrongful Conviction, Solitary Confinement and 12 Years on Death Row Failed to Kill My Soul. What a story. Anthony Graves, good morning to you. Look, we'll talk about your own story in a moment, but I'm just interested on why you think a convicted criminal should be spared the law of that particular state and not face death row today.
Well, you know, Mr. Buntion has been on death row for nearly 30 years. That in itself is cruel and unusual punishment. And then on top of that, now they're talking about executing him. You've killed this man 30 years. For 30 years, he's lived in hell. And now he's 81 years old. He's an older man. And we're still talking about killing him for something he did 30 years ago. But we took his life 30 years ago. And now we want to just lay him to rest. I mean, he can't do us any harm now, you know, and as a nation, as a country.
But Anthony, it doesn't matter. Anthony, it doesn't matter whether he can do us any harm now. He did do harm. He did do harm, and surely he's got to pay the price for that.
And he has 30 years of his life. He has. From a young man, now he's an older man. He's older than you, sir. He's 81 years old. You know, when do we say enough is enough? I mean, we've killed him. We've taken his life for the last 30 years. You know, yeah. So I don't understand.
The interesting thing is, Anthony, is the waiting on death row to have to be found guilty. And then, as you say, all these years then to wait to find out if someone's going to give you that injection or flick that switch or whatever it's going to be. I mean, you've been there. You have done that. What is that wait like?
You know, every day you have this whole threat of death over your head by a state that you love, right? For something that you may or may not have done. In my situation, I knew absolutely nothing about the crime. I wasn't a criminal, but yet I found myself on death row. It's barbaric. It's barbaric in its nature. It's barbaric in its practice, and it's a barbaric law. You know, we're talking about taking someone's life, finality, and if we get it wrong, we cannot give that back. Now, I don't know what Mr. Bunton's situation is, whether he's guilty or he's innocent, but he's given us, we've taken 30 years of his life. He's 81 years old, you know, and as us as human beings, I mean, at some point we're supposed to show some sort of humanity for the elderly, you know, and I understand he did a crime 30 years ago. 30 years ago. A lot of people listening to your show probably weren't even born.
Yeah, and look, that was 3 times almost as long as you served on death row, and your story just unbelievable. I mean, luckily your sentence was overturned, but 12 years in on death row, what were you accused of? And how does it feel to know that you're innocent and every night go to sleep in jail thinking about imminent death?
Yeah, I was accused of murdering an entire family, right? 4 children, a grandmother, a teenage daughter. They were shot, stabbed, bludgeoned to death. The house was burnt down in an obvious attempt to cover up the crime. And so a young man just called my name because they told him they would let him go if he called the name of someone who could have done the crime with him. And that's all it took. No evidence whatsoever. But that's all it took to take a young black man off the streets and put him on death row. I had alibi witnesses and everything, but it wasn't enough to stop the state of Texas from trying to murder an innocent citizen. It was just a nightmare every day.
Yeah.
But Anthony, you went through then what you went through, and your book, it talks about how being on death row failed to kill your soul. What did you learn? And what is your book about? Infinite hope? What do you mean by infinite hope? What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, you know, and I'll tell you a quick story. The first time they gave me an execution date, they took me to the office of the captain and they set me there to tell me that the state of Texas had called them and they was giving me an execution date. And they wanted me to tell them what I wanted them to do with my body and what I wanted my last meal to be. And I remember the first thought that came into my mind that just really saved my life. And I said to myself, I'm just going to live till I die, because they can't do nothing about that. And so what I learned in all of that is that no matter what you go through, You have a choice as to how you want to respond to it. It is not the act against you that defines you. It's how you respond to that act. And when I figured that out, I realized that, hey, look, just because they're treating me unjustly doesn't excuse me for being trying to be what they saying I am. I need to still be who I am as a good person. I still have that choice to be the good man that I am. And I'm not going to let them take that from me, because I can give that. They can't take it. And so I refuse to give the good character, the person that my mom raised, away just because they had done something wrong to me. That's what I learned, is that no matter what, you still have a choice as to how you're going to respond to anything that happens in your life. And that should give you hope.
Yeah, Anthony Charles Graves, a really positive message, and I suppose it applies to all of us, whether we are on death row or not, to live life to the fullest. We never know what is around the corner. Really interesting to get your, I hope, unique experience of being wrongly convicted and on death row. And thank you very much for joining us today.